11 o'clock. We are going to go ahead and get started. Let's see, I have advanced slides here. I am Kelly Wellman, and I am the director for the Office of Sustainability. Delighted to having you join us here on our fourth day of Virtual Earth Month activity events. Let's go over a few logistics before we really kind of dive into things fully. So we are recording this event because we will put it on our YouTube page and make it available later. So if you notice the recording button, that's there. If you don't want to be seen at any point toward the end of the video, just make sure to keep your video tile off. Other things to improve your viewing experience if you're watching us through Zoom. Oh, and by the way, we are Facebook Live broadcasting as well. So thanks for joining us if you're on Facebook. So if you're on your Zoom settings for best optimum mode, we encourage you to go and check your toolbar under viewing options and select side by side. And what that means is you'll be able to see the gallery as well as any slides that the presenters have today without interfering with their slides. I have enabled the live transcript feature. And if you don't want to see that, you can also go to your toolbar and find the CC button and basically select hide captions there. And then we would encourage you, if you have questions throughout our time together this morning for this panel of my very esteemed colleagues from across campus, you can put those questions into the chat. My colleague Jessie Carswell is going to be monitoring that. She might be able to answer a few questions during the event, but otherwise we will be cataloging those, saving them, and then broadcasting those questions out at the end, because each speaker is going to go and then we'll do Q&A at the back part of this. So before we get into the real fun stuff, I do want to remind our campus community, so Texas A&M faculty, students, and staff are eligible to collect points for different Virtual Earth Month activity events that you are participating in. And so you can win. If you didn't already hear about this, we are giving out code words at every virtual event that we do. And when you watch live, you actually earn more code words. So that's kind of a bonus there. The way it works is one code word is equal to 1 point. And that means it's one entry in a random drawing giveaway. Those code words, there will be one written on a PowerPoint, or it's spoken, or it's both, and then we'll put that in the chat. But then we will also later in the presentation give you, because you're live, you're going to get more code words to earn even more points if you're saving them. And we ask that if you attend multiple events, save all of your code words from every event that you attend, and then compile those into one single email, send it to sustainability@tamu.edu at the conclusion of Virtual Earth Month. We'll take those code words all the way up until April 30th. So if you've missed some events live, you can go to our YouTube page, find events, and also get code words from going back and revisiting previous content. So up to 7 points for event, for some events, and that's what you can earn today for being live. And then just as a bonus for our students, we are partnering with the School of Innovation. This is in Maroon Base, so you can earn points that get you up to $2,000 in cash prizes there as well. So for complete prize giveaway information, there's the link. Jessie is going to be dropping a lot of that information into the chat. I think it's popping in right now, so you can review it as you go. So what can you win? Grand prize is a Nintendo Switch. Or if you don't want that and you want one of the runner-up types of prizes, we have fitness watches, headphones, Yeti coolers, and you can see there's a variety. We're going to let our winners select which one is best for them, and a GoPro Hero 7. So again, you can submit all your code words at one time. Up to April 30th is the last day to submit those to us. And the other thing is you can also get Office of Sustainability water bottles and t-shirts. These are the panelists today. You might have seen their photos in campus-wide emails or on the screen earlier. We've got with us Dr. Carol Binzer, Jason Mastrogiovanni, David Riddle, and Jim Riley. And I will separately introduce all of them when their time is up to speak for us on the panel. And since we're here to talk about the Sustainability Master Plan and the progress that's happening towards that, and we're going to hear it from our campus experts, I do want to just give a really brief primer on the Sustainability Master Plan. Which was released in October of 2018. This was a collaborative campus community effort. Over 500 voices went into completing this document. The developmental framework, really high level, is that it's got three major lenses. One is that it's holistic. We look at environmental, social, and economic sustainability components holistically to achieve campus goals. The second lens is that of STARS, the Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System. This is an annual assessment framework that we use here at Texas A&M to understand our performance in a multitude of categories. This is the program that is most commonly used in North America by all higher education institutions. And then the third framework is that of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It's important to point these out simply because our theme is creating change through the Sustainable Development Goals. And so I want to make sure that our audience knows these are the 17 global goals for a prosperous future for all inhabitants of the earth. High income countries such as ours are really expected to play a little bit larger role in accomplishing these goals. And then here, as an institution of higher education, it's important to remember that really our institutional objectives line up nicely with what these goals are, because we are a teaching, learning institution and are creating the thought leaders of the future. So if you've never seen the Sustainable Development Goals, you can find them. I encourage you to do that at sdgs.un.org/goals. Another thing about our plan is that there are 4 major areas. The first is physical environment. These are the themes. And the reason I wanted to point out these areas is because, our campus experts are going to be speaking to some of these. So in the physical environment, we are looking at energy use and greenhouse gas emissions, campus mobility, how we construct the campus through the built environment and site design, and of course, our stormwater management practices. The second major area is institutional effort, and these have to do with our policies, how we do education and outreach, and the types of learning, education, and research that are happening on campus. The third big area is social sustainability, with the final being around waste management. So the plan itself has 16 evergreen goals, 47 targets, and 162 actions. You can view the entire plan by going to our website, sustainability.tamu.edu. And so essentially, our guest speakers today are going to be talking about how they fit into the different goals and targets and what they're doing in their respective areas. And so without further ado, I do want to stop sharing my screen momentarily, just to give you a break from looking at all that and see all the faces that we have here. I'm going to be introducing Dr. Benser, who's going to be up first. So Carol Benser has been at Texas A&M since 2002. And working specifically in residence life since 2010. She's the Director of Administrative and Support Services. In her role of many hats, she champions sustainability, diversity and inclusion, and fundraising for the department. Since 2010, she's worked with the Office of Sustainability to meet the department mission, which is twofold. First, conservation efficiencies to facilities to keep on-campus housing as affordable as possible. And second, student engagement and education so that residents gain insight and application as to how their actions can impact sustainability. With Graduate Assistant Sustainability Coordinator Christiana Bowles and the support of the department, as well as the Aggie Green Fund, Residence Life has been able to build a comprehensive program that extends beyond on-campus housing. So with that, Carol, I'm going to turn that over to you and I'll put your slides up for you.
Thanks so much, Kelly. I really need to acknowledge Christiana. She's the one who put our slides together for us. And if I'm the champion, she's the operations coordinator. So we have lots to talk about and I will speak fast. I'm from the East Coast. So if you need something, wave at me. And I'll hopefully leave some time at the end, Kelly, for questions or whatever. Residence Life and me specifically have the opportunity to be one of those voices and get to participate on several committees for the Campus Sustainability Master Plan. And then my executive director, Sharni Riddle, after that experience, put us through a departmental process. So we have a department Campus Sustainability or Master Plan as well, created by the same agency. But specifically as to how we fit in, decreasing campus energy use, we have just been to the CBE, Design Sub-Review Council, for our film project, which was funded by the Aggie Green Fund. So on Upright, which is a modular hall, one of we have 60 buildings and almost 12,000 students at capacity. The idea is to deflect some of the energy so we can have some conservation while keeping the residents comfortable and not changing their view out their window. And then we do monitoring using our utility bills, which are about 300 pages, thanks, Jim, to compute what our energy use index is. And actually, the residence halls and apartment buildings do better than the campus buildings. So in the overall scheme of things, we have some efficiencies that we've gained, but we help keep the overall campus EUI profile on the decline. Just as an indicator, we started our utility bills in 2010 at something over $10 million. And now we've added real estate, but we're just over $7 million. So through renovation and these monitoring for maintenance issues that are coming up so they don't go on a long time, and some of these things like film for the windows, we're making some real progress. Almost 3 million gross square feet. Decrease potable water consumption with on-campus residents. Wherever possible with renovation and new construction, Hullabaloo and White Creek being the latest in new construction, we have low flow fixtures in our restrooms, toilets, faucets, shower heads. And then we have a program that Christiana manages for us called Green Dorm Certification. So students can go through and do a checklist and get certified at one of 3 levels, seedling, sapling, post oak, I think it is, for learning more about what they can do individually to be more sustainable. And then there's a placard for their door. We have some Aggie Eco reps who have helped make that really popular in halls, like, I have a sticker, everybody wants a sticker, come on. All you have to do is fill out this, and most people are doing something on it. And then diversion rates for non-construction waste, we do have the Trex Plastic Film Challenge. Trex, it makes composite decking, and they had a program where if you collected 500 pounds, they would give you a bench. And we thought that would be a way to, Christiana and I are both in Lions Clubs, that's where we saw it. We brought it to the campus, and now it's being done in the College of Engineering as well as in residence life and public health, as well as the local Cub Scouts are doing it as well. So we have the ability to snowball our efforts, but it's collecting 500 pounds to get a bench. We've completed our 3rd bench on almost 3,000 pounds over the 3 years. Awesome. Transportation Services helped us by purchasing a scale for us to weigh it, and we now take it to Kroger and they put it in their stream to go to Trex. I think if that's my only slide, we also contribute to the durable goods part of the sustainability master plan. We were charged with that. So we have a program that's been going on for a while at the end of the semesters called Donate, Don't Dump. We have partnered with Goodwill for people to be able to put those carpets or small appliances or other things, linens that they were done with, into the Goodwill so that it can be reused as opposed to end up in the landfill. And while the 12th Can does a wonderful job, in our residence halls, we started grocery give and grab, where at some of our 24-hour service desks and in some of the open lab computer labs, we have bins that students can put their non-perishable, non-expired food, and you can take it if you need it. And so a number of our students have run out of meal plans or whatever, so they're grabbing soup or popcorn or a cereal or whatever. My favorite story is that I put a box of Sam's crackers in the bin, preloading it, I guess, or seeding the bin, and somebody opened it and took only 1 sleeve of crackers and left the others self-contained in there. So trying to help with food insecurity or minimally snacking, and then those things are taken to, oh, she does have a second slide. So she does have, it goes off to the Brazos Valley Food Bank, so no waste. We also got charged with e-waste, so we have the Gladstone bins, and we've collected more than 100 pounds, leaving them up all the time. Our cutest donation was headphones that had sloths on both ears. And it's really been pretty easy. We're grateful to Andy Mitchell from Surplus, who connects the e-waste with the prison program, that is computer repairs, etc. So even that is not wasted. We have a channel or an infrastructure for the waste to go. Otherwise, we were going to be visiting Best Buy on a regular basis. And then, as I said, the Donate, Don't Dump, the Grocery Give and Grab. Our newest initiative is called Souls for Souls. It's sponsored by Zappos. And we have our own connection with the Texas representative for gently used shoes to be contributed. If we get to 10,000 pairs of shoes, then they'll be distributed locally through a not-for-profit. Otherwise, they get shipped off to Souls for Souls headquarters and get distributed as they can. Again, these are to keep things out of the landfill, probably first and foremost, but the other part, and maybe the more significant part for me, is that students are learning that through these small gestures, they can make a difference, and that they don't have to take the shoes they bought at Target and wore for one special occasion and are done with and just trash them. So we're hoping to turn dumpster diving into a real thing. Not so you don't need to go to the dumpster, you can actually find a way. Our goal would be some sort of swap shop, and Engineers for a Sustainable World are interested in that, so we're going to partner with them. Somebody just asked me a question about where the Grocery Give and Grab bins are. They are at our 24-hour service desks, so outside the common, right in the commons, in Hullabaloo on the first floor, near the Live Oak Lounge, in the White Creek Activity Center. So that is the office that is nearest to the apartments, as opposed to the White Creek Community Center, which is across the street where the Creekside Market is, and over at the Gardens, also in the Activity Center. So hopefully they're where students are. And then we have also open access computing labs in the Commons, in White Creek, in Hullabaloo, and at the Gardens. So there are also bins there. We believe there are, in total, there end up being Aggie Magic number 12 bins distributed. So we hope to make it easy. The one at the Gardens is stayed up all year round because it's been useful. So we're getting to a place where maybe that's an infrastructure and a channel that can be used. And of course, our staff have dropped off things in those bins to get them started out of their own generosity and need to help students with food insecurity, even if it's just that my meal plan has run out and I could use one more meal today. Let me see. Utilities conservation we talked about. We also have a leadership living learning program, or a living learning program called Sustainable Aggies, newly partnering with the College of Architecture. So it will satisfy students' Hullabaloo U requirement. We have a group of students, ambassadors, if you will, called Aggie Eco Reps, who learn about sustainability and have been passionate and make presentations to our students living on campus. And then Christiana's been awesome at trying to tell our story. So we have a newsletter and social media channels called Aggie's Going Green, and she's quite the consultant to a number of our professional organizations and other campuses around the nation. I'm probably out of time.
Thank you, Carol, for that overview of all of the work that Residence Life has been doing. We certainly recognize that your interaction with students as they are first making their way onto campus is extremely critical in the behaviors they adopt and then carry forward with them. So we will answer again. If you have questions, feel free to put those in the chat. We're going to collect those at the end. And once all the panelists speak, we'll go ahead and bring those questions up. So we're going to move ahead, and I would love to introduce Jason Mastrogiovanni to you. And this is actually our first time for me to lay eyes on Jason. We have had much correspondence, but haven't seen one another. So it's actually great to see you.
Likewise.
Appreciate you being here today. Jason joined the Office for Student Success at Texas A&M University in July of 2019 as the founding executive director of the Office of Student Success. He brings with him over 16 years of experience in student success and development. His portfolio has included academic advising, first-year experience, transfer experience, academic outreach, and first-generation programs. And having made a habit of serving in newly created roles, he's also served as the founding director of first-year studies at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and the founding assistant director of the undergraduate colleges at Stony Brook University. You can see he doesn't like to do anything that already has a predefined path. Can't wait to hear what you have to share with the group. Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kelly. I really appreciate that. Well, I like the way that Carol set up her slides and showing them in relationship to the Sustainability Master Plan. So let me direct your attention to the social responsibility section. And I would say that we're probably most closely aligned with 7-2, that continue to close the gaps in the student success rates. That's what we're all about. And gaps in all the broadest sense of everything that has to do with student success. I like to start off with any group that I'm not as familiar with, is just kind of giving a little bit of an outline of when we talk about the Student Success Initiative or the Office for Student Success, what are the difference between the two? The Student Success Initiative was a campus-wide task force that was launched in 2018. It's actually had 2 rounds of iterations, one that happened in 2018, one that happened in 2019, 2020. And the overall goal were these 4 things: to increase first-year retention, increase 4-year graduation rates, increase 6-year graduation rates, and then decrease achievement disparities. What the second task force wave did was actually get into the nitty-gritty a little bit more about what we mean by decreasing achievement disparities. But one of the first recommendations in the first round was to create the Office for Student Success, because while we in our office and the people that are involved in this work believe that student success is not us alone. There's lots of people on campus that are involved in this. We really needed staff on the ground, really looking at these gap areas and really trying to figure out where we could move the needle and help students in different ways. So I would say student success is everybody's job to a certain degree, but I think what we're really excited about doing is partnering and helping people. So if we can go to the next slide, I want to show a little bit about who we believe we are. This is our mission and values as stated. We really see ourselves as amplifying student success and trying to acknowledge the needs that our community needs. We do this through collaboration. I kind of mentioned that already. We don't believe it's solely our office. Our office is pushing in a lot of directions to try to think differently about student success, but we are by no means the end all be all. We have lots of partners across campus. We're really focused on action, very much focused on equity, and very much focused on inclusion as well. So these are what we bring into all the work that we do in our office. So let me talk a little bit about the different programs that I think that's the next slide as well. So the way we engage in this is in a couple of ways right now. Formally in our office. So we have a unit of people in our office that are focusing on academic advising. Academic advising is primarily embedded in our academic colleges across campus. But what we found is as students transfer colleges sometimes or transfer majors, sometimes there's places where students get stuck. So we're really looking at gap areas here and doing a host of initiatives and programs that I'm going to tell you about in one second. Our Navigate student app is kind of revolutionary for students. We have a one-stop shop for all your academic appointment needs and also a lot of academic resources as well that we push out through this app. So students are encouraged. This is our second year. Well, this will be our third summer actually of pushing it out in NSCs to students to make them aware that this app exists and that this is how they schedule appointments with advisors, tutors, academic coaches, and various other groups on campus. We are open to and expanding to other offices as well. So if you are interested in that, please let us know and we'd be happy to engage more folks. Of course, the one that I think people hear about the most is Hullabaloo U, or our first year experience. That has certainly probably gotten the biggest splash across campus, but we really have a mind to be looking at the first year experience beyond Hullabaloo U. And all I mean by that is, again, we have lots of partners on campus, NSC, LCs, a lot of different communities on campus that are focused on first year students that we have a mind to bring together in a way where we are thinking about that holistic experience from beginning to end for a first year student and how they become an Aggie. And it's not that we don't have a good tradition with that, but we do know with some of our populations on campus, that's a little bit harder to find. and a little bit harder to make those connections. So we're looking forward to examining that as we go forward. We also had a first generation team, which has recently been named through an endowment, the Ruth First Generation Center. A group of our staff there are really focused on providing a place, a space, and support for first gen students and our Regent Scholars Program. And then most recently, the Transfer Student Program, which was formerly located in Academic Success Center, has moved to our office, and we're looking to grow that program more directly, focusing on the experience of transfer students as well. So we can go to the next slide. I want to tell you a little bit about some of the actions that we've taken already and some of the work that, some of the numbers and some of the projects that you may have heard about. So I'll start with Hullabaloo. We were on the fast track to make this happen. So in 2019, we enrolled 25% of our FTIC students. In 2020, we jumped to 96%. And as of this past fall, I am fairly confident that we are the largest first year seminar program in the country, just given the size of our campus. So we just recently did a presentation at our national conference about this because it's kind of unprecedented to make this jump so quickly. Tremendous investment from our campus, a lot of partnership with our colleagues across oh, thank you. Yes, FTIC is first time in college, but a lot of our partners across campus willing to mold some of their programs into this model, or at least allow the flexibility of it. But we are close to having almost every single first year student into a first year seminar, and we're looking to do the same this next year. So we'll see how that continues to grow, and looking forward to that. Have some really good data on sense of belonging, which we're hoping to be able to share later this year as well. Advising has done a lot of outreach and focus to low performing students in some of our high enrollment courses where there's traditionally some academic struggle. We've been doing outreach to students who don't pre-register during the normal registration period. That's generally a sign that students may not persist beyond that next semester. So if a student doesn't register when they're scheduled to register, we give them a call. We follow up with them. We're working with the colleges to do this as well to make sure that they stay connected and that they're going to persist, or if there's barriers, we can help them eliminate them. And then the other thing that we're looking to have a lot more marketing around this next year is our Student Success Help Desk. We kind of did a soft launch right in February of last year. You can imagine how that went, given that we went right into COVID, but we have a Student Success Help Desk that is available. It exists. It's been a little, I don't want to say dormant because it's been active, but it's been a little bit harder to get the word out about it. But essentially, if a student has an academic struggle and they don't know where to go, or they're stuck between two colleges or advisors and this, that, and the other, they can contact our Student Success Help Desk, and our staff will advocate for them and get them the resources that they need. And in some cases, show them the ropes if that's what they need. And then with first gen, that's probably been our other big area of growth this past year. I mentioned that endowment that we secured from the Ruth family for the First Gen Center. That we're really excited about what that means for the future. Those funds should be kicking in next year. So we're excited about some of the expansion that we'll be able to do. Regent Scholar Programming or scholarship has gone up this past year. It's gone from $5,000 to $6,000. We still don't think that's enough, but we're excited about the trend. Knowing about our Regent students and the Regent Scholars programs, it is typically low income first gen students. And historically, when this program was created 15 years ago, it was $5,000 a year. Well, you can imagine the cost of living and the cost of tuition and fees has gone up a lot since then. So we are very acutely aware of where we need to grow some more there. We've recently hosted for the last 2 years, the National First Gen Celebration, and we've implemented a First Gen network on campus where faculty and staff can affiliate with being first gen or being a supporter of first gen. So it's kind of like an ally network, but there's also an identity component because some of us, faculty and staff, are first gen, myself included. So you get a little placard you can put on your door, but we're also looking to do some communication and advocacy as we continue to grow that program. And then last, I want to talk just a little bit about next steps and kind of where we're headed. So overall, I mentioned that we're establishing some more measurable goals around reducing disparities in student success metrics. In the original plan of the task force, it was just a blanket statement. We've gotten really nitty gritty and specific on what that means for us going forward. But our plan is really to try to level the playing field within the next 5 years. That's what we're looking at. But that goalpost is moving as well because we're trying to improve student success for everybody, but we want to make sure it's done in an equitable way. So we have metrics on how we're going to do that and benchmarks to follow for the next couple of years. A big thing with Hullabaloo, based on some preliminary data we had and from the second wave of recommendations, is we're trying to expand some affinity-based sections. So we have general Hullabaloo, but we also have a lot of Hullabaloos that are first-year seminars that are affiliated with learning communities or colleges or niche programs. We want to continue to do that. We believe in that, and our data is showing that when done right, those are really powerful belonging pieces for students and intend to sustain them beyond their first year. With Regents and first gen, again, as I mentioned, we're looking at additional funding for some of those scholarships, but we're also really starting to focus on programming beyond the first year. Our Regents program, which was the only first gen game for the most part in town, other than a couple of other programs across campus, are very much focused on the transition of the first year. But what we've noticed is a lot of students we're losing between the second and third year. So we're looking to expand beyond the first year in our programming. And there is a soon to be announced internship program that we're going to be doing in the second year. Or I should say it is announced, but it's kind of a pilot this year. It'll be expanded to most regions. And then last but not least, I mentioned that transfer is new to our area. And so the three of the big things that are happening in conjunction with enrollment management in our office is we're establishing an enrollment plan that aligns with transfer application and financial aid deadlines. Typically, transfers are admitted late, and by that point, none of the financial aid exists left for them, or very little does. So we're trying to move that up a little bit more for students so that they're more eligible. We're also advocating for, and I actually just found out yesterday, that we're going to have this coming fall a group of 60 transfer students that are going to be in a Regents-like program. They're not necessarily first-gen students, but it's going to be money with program support attached. So we are in the final stages of writing up exactly what that will be and announcing that. We're also exploring an electronic platform support for transfer students. There's a lot on the market, but we're also looking at some homegrown tools that we can do to make the transfer process a little bit more seamless. And last but not least, we're looking to improve our onboarding for transfer students so that all of them have access to resources and support through the transfer program in our office. So that's pretty much who we are. I think on the next slide, I have just some metrics of, we've been looking at retention, and I think, we're still in the newest, we're always waiting for retention or graduation data to come in. So it always is a lagging indicator of the work that we're doing, but we're really excited at looking at some of the retention numbers for these last couple of years. You see the trajectory of where it's going, and we're excited to continue along those lines. So I think my last slide is just contact information. I know I'm right at time. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email our office. You can visit our website. We're always available for presentation requests. If you're interested in being a Hullabaloo U instructor, side note, first year numbers are up this year. So we're actually still recruiting a little bit more. If anybody is interested, we put our initial plan in, and we just looked at the enrollment numbers, and we're going to be asking for some more instructors. So if you're interested, we are welcome. You'd be welcome to apply. We'd be welcome to have you. Student Success Help Desk is there, and also that First Gen network that I mentioned. And you can find us on various social media platforms if you'd like to see some of the work that we're doing. Thank you, everyone.
Jason, thank you. Wow, there is an awful lot going on. And so I look forward to a little bit of Q&A with you at the end of this session. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, next up, we're gonna welcome David Riddle to the screen, front and center. David is a familiar face who has recently returned to campus. Oops, I think I did what are we still sharing? No, we don't want to share. Sorry, folks. Techno. We'll just stop there. Okay. So David Riddle joined Chartwells at Texas A&M as the regional vice president in November of 2020. And during David's 8 years with Chartwells, he has successfully led high-performing teams, embraced technology and innovation, and developed strong relationships on multiple campuses. David received his MBA from the Mays Business School at Texas A&M and led the opening of the Chartwells dining transition as resident district manager. And since then, David served as the resident district manager in California before returning to Texas district manager. And most recently, he has served as the vice president of operations for the University of Houston system. Returning to his alma mater, David is committed to building on the great work of the Texas A&M dining team. And with that, David, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Kelly. Is my volume okay? Audio good?
It's great.
All right, thank you. It's almost lunchtime, so let's talk about food. First slide we're going to kick off is just some high-level stats, things we track as an organization. So some good positive numbers here. 98% of our purchases on seafood are sustainable. We've got 98% of the milk and dairy that we use is hormone-free, growth hormone-free. as well as our yogurt. We've got a reduced 78% of our buy on chicken is reduced antibiotic. And then some other stats as well, same thing around turkey, cage-free eggs. We've got an organizational goal of 30% of our purchases being local. It's hard to achieve in this particular region because of the seasons, but that's what we're shooting for nationally. And then 67% of the coffee that we buy is also sustainable. So these are kind of high level overarching tracking, because sustainability happens in a couple of different ways, you know, and this is really about the very beginning of it. You know, how do we buy? What do we purchase? And then the rest of it has a lot to do with the managing waste and consumption throughout the process. So let's go to the next slide. Excuse me. So some current sustainability initiatives here on campus at Texas A&M. We've got Stop Food Waste Day on April the 28th, which is coming up. We have also something called Project Clean Plate, and that's really trying to educate consumers, especially in residential dining, not to order or not to take more than you're actually going to eat. So we're trying to educate the consumer on being mindful about waste. We're a fair trade designated campus since fall of 2017. We've also got a lot of local partnerships, one with Scarmato Produce, Independence Coffee, Chartwells. We try to buy locally as much as we can. We also launched in 2019 a strawless and lidless campaign that was really picking up a lot of steam nationally. And so we were happy to join that because it does make a huge difference in terms of what goes into to landfill. We're a part of the Food Recovery Network. So if we do have overproduction or we have additional food that we need to find a home for, we don't throw it out, we donate it if it's good. And then also we're a big participant in National Nutrition Month here as well. Next slide. So let's look a little bit at how we line up with specifically some of the STARS goals and criteria. So one of the things that we've got is a zero waste to landfill by 2050 initiative. And so in looking at some of these particular goals about increasing post-consumer compost and dining locations, right now we're composting all the food waste that comes back in our residential dining halls. And pre-COVID, we were averaging 500 tons a year, tremendous amount of waste. But this is things that not necessarily can be eaten, but are part of food waste. But that's also why we do, as I mentioned earlier, that Project Clean Plate initiative, because we, while we're proud of that number, we'd also like for it to be less because people are, eating what they put on their plate as much as possible. And then looking into the retail part of our business, that'd be things like the MSC and other retail locations around campus. We're developing a strategy to see how we can capture more of that waste and get it out of landfill and into composting as much as possible. And that's going to have a lot to do with educating consumers on how to sort their waste. And then the goal of reducing the total weight of non-construction waste, as I mentioned, Stop Food Waste Day. We have a Waste Not program, which is really geared towards training our chefs on how to utilize 100% of vegetables, meat, anything we buy, and limit the waste in the kitchen as well. And we also do that through very tight production records. Next slide. Great. Another goal was leveraging institutional purchasing dollars to advance a sustainable supply chain, specifically around paper purchases. We wanted to get to where we wanted to increase the purchases around paper that had at least 30% post-consumer recycled content. And we achieved this goal in fall of 2019, spring of 20. So at least 30% of all of our paper products are composed of biodegradable materials. And COVID has really wreaked havoc on paper products and disposables. So we're very much looking forward to moving out of that. And the reason why it created such a problem for us is supplies on biodegradable products and compostable products became very tight because so many people across the country were going to, they were moving away from anything that had to be washed. It was all prepackaged foods and that sort of thing. So really it became a supply chain issue for us, but that's starting to loosen up and we expect to be back on track as we move into fall of 21. The next goal was to increase dining services, food and beverage expenditures on products considered sustainable by STARS criteria. This is a challenging one. In 2019, our ranking was only 0.52 out of 6. And this is pretty common for most universities. Nobody's blowing this out of the park. But we did see an increase in 2020. We were able to get that up to 1.1 rating out of 6. So we see progress there. And within that category, about almost 12% of what we purchase falls into this expenditures that are considered sustainable by STARS, and we're always looking for ways to grow and increase that. And then the percentage of spend that we have on food and beverage that's plant-based is around 14%. Another metric we track and that we're always trying to move the needle in a positive way there. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. And hopefully we're going to have a little bit more conversation with you at the end of this session. We're now rounding out to our fourth panelist, and I'm going to be introducing Jim Riley momentarily. But before I do that, I want to share the code word for the event, the live code word. And if you are keeping up with this to get points, it's goals. So goals is your code word. Write that down. And a little bit later, Jesse's going to drop in the rest of the code words for those of you that are attending live here through Zoom. So on to Jim Riley. Jim, what do they say? That they save the best for last? Everybody's been great, but now we're going to talk about energy.
Right,
and when it comes down to greenhouse gas emissions and reducing our carbon footprint, I think Jim and his team play a really large role in that. So let me introduce Jim. He's an engineering graduate of Texas A&M University and a certified energy manager. He has been executive director for utilities and energy services at the College Station campus since 2002. UES provides comprehensive utilities and energy services to serve 30 million gross square feet over 5,000 acres with 50 megawatts of power generation, 65,000 tons of chiller capacity, steam, and hot water generation and distribution. UES also manages extensive campus building automation systems. Campus energy consumption has been reduced close to 50% per gross square foot over the last several years as a result of the extensive energy efficiency improvements. And more about that is Jim. Go ahead, Jim.
All right, Kelly, and you're going to put the slides up here?
They'll be up momentarily.
We'll roll with it. And I appreciate the introduction, Kelly. And we really enjoyed working very closely with Kelly in the Office of Sustainability. Carol Benser did a great job of giving an overview with Res Live. And, they're a very close partner of ours and actually they're our biggest and best customers. So we try to treat them with respect and work closely with them on the energy efficiency improvements, but they've set a great example. And then as was referenced earlier, like with student initiatives, much of what we do is a very collaborative effort. It's not us doing it alone. It's very much a team effort, university-wide effort. You see the 3 different initiatives in the Sustainability Master Plan that are listed there, that we do lead these efforts together with Office of Sustainability, and really you see all Aggies are involved in these, but reducing energy consumption per square foot is a big one. And I have a slide on that in just a minute. And then greenhouse gas emissions, what's called Scope 1, Scope 2 in particular are the ones that we can directly influence. I have a slide on that I'll show you as well. That's a big one that we're all very familiar with nowadays to reduce greenhouse gas emissions overall. And then the third one that is tied back into these, like greenhouse gas emissions, is increasing our use of renewable energy. And I do have a couple slides on that. So I'll get into those in a little more detail. Go ahead, Kelly. This is kind of an overview of our services. Kelly ran through those quickly, but we do have a large department. It's close to 240 personnel that are full-time. And then we work with contractors, student workers, and others to help fulfill our mission. You can see there a summary with the bullet points of the major commodities that we provide. But I guess an important point here is that it's the production of commodities in the utility plants and the distribution is a huge part of what we do, but it's really just part of what we do because the building automation, environmental control in the buildings is an essential part of what our UES team does to regulate temperature, humidity, airflow, and make sure there's safe, comfortable environment in all the buildings. That's very much a collaborative effort as well, but we're monitoring and controlling the air handlers that serve the spaces. And then we work closely with SSC on the maintenance side of it if there are mechanical issues, electrical, plumbing, things like that that have to be repaired. But then we also have solid waste, recycling, stormwater, wastewater, and domestic cold that are systems that serve the whole campus and even outlying areas as well. You see a reference there to 90 million in annual cost recovery. I have a slide on that, so go ahead and move forward. Before I get into that, you can see here, there's a lot of detail on this slide. We won't go through all this, but there's a whole rainbow array of services provided. And this just kind of demonstrates everything from procurement of the raw commodities, particularly electricity and natural gas, because we produce our own water, but we buy electricity and natural gas in fairly significant volumes. We have to project consumption requirements actually a couple of years in advance, well, several years in advance. And then sometimes we purchase strips of power or natural gas, and then we'll adjust that as the dates get closer. We'll adjust it for the year and we'll adjust it month ahead to fine tune it for any changes in operational situations on campus. But the procurement and then the transmission to get those commodities to campus, the production on campus, we actually operate 4 large utility plants on the campus proper. We call it the CUP Central Utility Plant and 3 satellite utility plants. But then we have the RELIS campus, the HSC campus that are here local. And then the Moore Connolly building has a small central plant. So those, our operators and our mechanics maintain all those facilities. And then you see some of the other production items that are referenced there. And then distribution of all those various commodities to the various campuses. And we have dedicated staff managing that as well. And then metering and billing is very important. You heard Carol Benser speak about that on their end. They, for example, it's, Res Life is an important customer. We work with the education in general academic facilities very closely, but we also work with all the auxiliaries and all the agencies that are on the campus, and we bill everyone the same rate for the same commodities. And obviously you have to have accurate metering to be able to not only bill accurately, but also to be able to manage the utilities or manage the energy and make sure that if we have excessive consumption or we have problems that we can identify those and quickly correct them. And then finally, energy management. That's a broad category that really is what we sometimes call the demand side or the consumption side. And that's what I was saying earlier. Everything we do in the buildings is involved primarily in the buildings and on campus would be the consumption of the commodities that are purchased and delivered to the buildings. So go ahead, Kelly. This is a pie chart that just shows how that $90+ million budget is allocated. So you see a little over 31 million of that is purchased utilities. We have about close to 20 million for personnel, operations and maintenance, debt service. So obviously every major piece of equipment or system that we install, you have to either spend capital renewal dollars or you have to take out debt, and then we have to pay that debt service. So we're a service center that's responsible for paying all of our costs and then recovering those costs out of our utility rates. And that's the best way to do it, because obviously whatever improvements you make have to pay for themselves, or you have to collect the money to cover that. And again, that ties into sustainability. It has to be financially sustainable. And then we have depreciation on our equipment and our systems, and that has to be recovered each year. And then we do about $2 million worth of resale work for project support and various things that we recover that money, not from the customer directly, but from maybe a third party if we're doing work. Go ahead, Kelly. All right, this is a busy chart. I just want to point out a couple of things on here. This is a rate comparison. So we're very much in tune with what our cost for services are. Cost is not the sole determinant. You know, you want quality of service, good customer service. You want to make sure it's highly reliable, but obviously it has to be cost effective to be sustainable and to make sure that we can operate our department, but also that the departments we serve can operate effectively and not have a bunch of surprises. So this is a comparison of fiscal year 06 to current fiscal year, FY21. Now, what's notable here is you see on the far right, 33% reduction in electricity cost over that period of time, and a 32% reduction in steam costs, just to give you an idea. Now, you see heating hot water is pretty flat at a slight increase of 1.8%. Chilled water is up 9%, but again, this is over many years. And you remember that debt service, we have to cover the debt service. So our actual cost for the commodity's gone down, but we've replaced over 30,000 tons of chiller capacity, which is a huge volume. It's almost half of our total just since 06. And that's because the equipment was rather outdated and needed to be replaced. Plus we had additional growth. So all of that cost has to be covered and then rolled into the rates. You see the next block right there where you see total energy consumption between 06 and 21 is the same. Coincidentally, it comes right to the same with 0% increase. But if you look at the next line down, that's with a 47% increase in campus gross square footage served. So we're almost 50% higher square footage served, but no increase in energy consumption. That's quite a remarkable accomplishment. We have not done it on our own. We lead the charge, but the university has been very supportive to make that possible. And then you see the EUI, I have a chart on that in just a second. That's the energy use intensity per square foot has reduced by 30% because the square footage has increased so much and the consumption has stayed flat. The final square at the bottom really just points out on the far right how much less utilities cost than comparable municipalities or other thermal energy providers. So 14 to 28% less in energy cost on this campus compared to other large producers that we compare ourselves to. And you know, that doesn't mean we're ever complacent, but it's good to know where you stand relative to others. So that's a good thing that we can deliver the utilities for less than a lot of others. Go ahead, Kelly. This chart shows gross square footage growth in blue there at the top. So you can see how much that has increased since 16. You see that incredible spike up. That was a lot of new buildings on campus, but we also added some additional public-private partnership space that served like south of campus and north of campus with Campus Point and residence halls to the south that added a lot to square footage. But again, you can get a quick indication on energy consumption in green that it's been very, very flat and actually down. This goes all the way back to 02. So we're well below where we were in 02 and about the same as where we were in 06. So that's a great accomplishment for the university. Go ahead, Kelly. This chart kind of combines gross square footage and consumption. And what it is, if you look over on the left scale, you'll see thousands of square BTU per gross square foot. So it's just energy consumed over square footage, okay, is the way to look at that. If you look at the far left top, you see 364. That's 364,000 BTUs per gross square foot. That was a relatively high number. That was back in 02 when we start. That's when I arrived here and we really started measuring this more precisely. And we quickly started working to improve the efficiency that we delivered energy to campus. And it's taken time, but we've gotten that down to 238, 192. This year it's 188. It gets a little more challenging as you go along to keep reducing that, but we've got other things we're working on to keep that going down. One other important point is you see the top line is source EUI. That's and at the bottom it mentions sources based on total energy consumption that might be consumed off campus or on campus. And then site EUI, the lower curve there. It represents energy intensity consumed in the buildings. So the blue curve, the area there, kind of represents how efficiently we convert raw consumption of electricity and natural gas to usable energy in the buildings, is the best way to look at that. One other quick point is the $285 million cost avoidance you see at the top. That's since '02, so that's over 18 years. Now, we don't have that money sitting in the bank. That money is what we did not have to charge campus, but if we stayed as inefficient as we were back in '02, we would have had to bill campus customers $285 million more. Fortunately, we didn't have to do that because we've improved efficiency by a significant amount. Go ahead, Kelly. I know I'm standing between y'all and lunch, so I'll try to keep this moving along here. But this is just another curve that shows campus square footage, which looks just like the curve on the EUI chart, but then it's overlaid in green with campus greenhouse gas emissions. So you see how that has come down. It's gone up some between 12 and 18, FY 12 and FY 18. It went up some as campus grew a lot, and then we've been able to level that off again. You see a big drop between 11 and 12 back in fiscal year 11 and 12. That's when we introduced our new combined heat and power system. And that's where we self-generate electricity on campus very efficiently and distribute the thermal energy that we get from that. That's a whole nother presentation. But that helped us tremendously. And then in 22, we're expecting to add renewable energy, which is going to be a real boon, and it's going to be a big plus. I have a couple slides on that I'll go over with you. So we're always looking for the next way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as well as energy consumption. And it can be challenging on a growing campus. But I guess that's what gives us job security and keeps us challenged day to day. Go ahead, Kelly. This is a greenhouse gas emissions intensity. So it's much like the curve you saw with energy use intensity, but it's greenhouse gas. And you can see that it doesn't drop as dramatically as energy use, but there is definitely a downward trend. I won't get into the details here, but there's scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, and those are listed at the bottom left and the top right. Scope 1 and 2 were listed as one of our sustainability goals. Those are the ones we can more directly influence, either purchased energy or on campus. And then some of the other scope 3, they're also very important, but some of those are indirect, like travel and commuting and campus fleet management. So that's what's represented by the blue curve is the scope 3. The green curve, which has seen the biggest reduction, is the scope 1 and 2. And again, you see the big drop off with CHP in 11-12, and you see the big drop off that's projected, not in place yet, but projected for 22-23. So just kind of to pull that all together. Go ahead, Kelly. And this is one more busy chart, and then just a couple more final charts on renewable energy. There's a lot here, and I won't go through all the detail, but this is a very important program, so I wanted to put this slide in there. It's our Energy Performance Improvement, or EPI program. And you'll see the top section says pilot, and you'll see where we did a pilot program in 4 facilities. And we implemented that initially for a 1-year implementation or performance period starting in 2017. And that has continued in those facilities. So this chart carries it through December of 2020 with calculations of cost avoidance. And we were able to make significant improvements by working closely with the occupants and the departments. And then we actually shared some of the savings that we were able to achieve with the departments that helped make it possible. So it's an innovative program that has been very successful. If you look to the far right, you look at grand total cost avoidance, you see some pretty big numbers. If you drop down to the lower section between the pilot program and what we're calling phase 1, and you look at those combined, you see over $4.5 million in cost avoidance since the program started. We have had some costs at 1.4 million to achieve that. And then we shared some of the savings of 567,000. But that gives a net cost reduction to the university of 2.6 million plus. So a real win-win across the board, and we're thrilled to be able to share savings with departments that help make it possible. So this program is ongoing, and we have to select facilities and locations and target those locations where we think the opportunities exist. Okay, a couple more charts. Go ahead to the next. This is a chart of what's sometimes called a solar farm. Okay, just to give a representation of a facility that's being built as we speak in far north Texas. It's almost to the Oklahoma border. There's actually two different solar farms, kind of a cute name of Samson and Delilah. And it's a 500 megawatt solar array, so very large, one of the largest in the world. And the university locked into a 15-year power purchase agreement for 50 megawatt peak. So that's a significant part of our total load. And you can see down in the lower right, this is the win-win here is that we greatly reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by, you see, 56,000 metric tons a year. And we're also able to reduce our costs. So this was a win-win across the board. And this is not readily available every day. We were able to get a pretty sweet deal on this. And we're always looking for the next opportunity. But this was a good one. And we're excited about this. June of 2022 is our target to have this operational. It could be June, July, but that's summer of 22. So we'll be there next year. We're almost there. If everything goes online as it should, you see 20% of our campus electrical consumption total will be from the solar power. That's average daytime and nighttime. Of course, the solar power is only available in the daytime, but average, it would be at least 20% of the total. And then the next slide is related to that. It just shows what sometimes called a heat map. And what it shows really is just, you see summertime, June, July, August, and middle of the day, hours a day are over on the far left. So in the middle of the day and the afternoon, in the heat of the summer, and when the sun is most directly overhead, is when you get the most intense solar energy. And then you see it drop off in the early morning and the evening. You obviously see zero at night, and then you'll see it drop off to a lower level, in the middle of the winter, for example, and the shoulder months. But this just kind of gives you an example. That 50 megawatts is not available 24/7. It's not even available daytime all the time. That would be the peak. But we're getting some pretty significant power, or we will be, from solar as we roll along. So I think that about does it, Kelly. We do focus on, I don't know if there's any time for Q&A. We focus on, if we do our job well, utilities is something that people shouldn't have to think about and worry about a lot, right? Hopefully your office space, your classroom is comfortable. You're not having to worry about being hot or cold or uncomfortable. And then, the water's going to flow, the toilets are going to flush, the power is going to come on when you need it. And that's what we strive to do without interruption. And if there are issues, we try to jump on that quickly so we don't have problems. But Kelly, unless that's all I have. If there's any Q&A or if we're done, it's up to you.
Okay. Yes, I realize that we are just past the hour. I would like to honor the ability for folks to ask a couple questions. I do have a couple things really quickly to share before we do that. And one of those I realize is that, let me share this really quickly. This is for our students who are still on. That didn't work. We are open for internship opportunities through Friday. Applications are due on April 19th. We normally have about 10 to 12 students working in our office helping talk about sustainability. So that's an undergraduate student opportunity. Also want to call your attention to the fact that we have another talk tomorrow. Apologies, I just realized the wrong one was on the screen. We would hope that you can join us at 11 o'clock tomorrow to learn about social sustainability, how cultures influence each other. And again, you found this by going to the sustainability schedule we have on the site. So with that, I do have a couple questions, and understand again, if you need to hop off, understand that completely that we're past time. But panelists, I also understand if you need to step away, don't want to hold you too far, but if you don't mind sticking around a couple minutes, and if you can, great. Let me go back to a couple questions that have come in here. Let's see. Well, one was specific to Jason. And that was really about, you've got so much going on over there in your office, and it seems to be relatively new. What kind of staff, like staffing numbers, how many folks do you have helping you with all of these different initiatives?
Sure. We have a staff of total of 20 people, including myself and admin staff as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's myself, really quickly, myself, the associate provost. We have an advising team of about 4 people. First gen is normally about 3 people. FYE is 2. Transfer is 1.5. And our analytics team is 2.
And remind me the year that you were founded with that. I mean, that's quite an investment.
We hired a lot of people all at once. Yeah, it was in 2019 when the majority of our staff was hired. We'd have a little bit of natural turnover, but yeah, we're at 20 folks, and we were pretty much fully staffed in the summer of 2019 through the fall of 2019. That was the period of probably the bulk of the hiring.
And would you say that that's part of the contributing factors? I'm trying to remember the numbers, but you went from like 24% to 96%. Is that because you have those resources really targeting that?
Well, with the Hullabaloo specifically, it was a partnership with lots of people on campus. I can't say that was all of our staff. Our staff actually for the FYE were some of the first that were onboarded. But in terms of who is teaching that, we have 400 some odd instructors across campus. So that is not solely our office. Our office teaches a lot of them. Yep, Carol is one as well. There are 400 some odd across campus. So that is not solely our office, but we certainly are doing our part as well.
Great, thank you so much. Carol, there was a question as a reminder, where can you donate the Souls for Souls or Christiana?
Yeah, either one of us, but the same places that the grocery give and grab are, they are at the service desks for the Commons and Hullabaloo. For the White Creek, I think it's the activity center, which is the one closest to the apartments, and the gardens in the activity center. So they are cardboard boxes that are labeled, and most of them have been seeded with shoes. So if you peek in the box, you will see that you're in the right place. And they are most often next to Trix recycle collection points as well.
Okay, great, thank you. And David, can you share like what actually happens on Stop Food Waste Day? That's coming up April 28th, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's more of a kind of customer-facing education program. So in our resident dining locations, Sabisa, Commons, Duncan, we've got an educational program that we put out talking to folks about, portioning and not taking more than you need. That's the big piece of it.
Okay, appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone is on the call and they want to unmute themselves and ask a question, we can also do that. I haven't seen anything new pop up in the chat. Again, trying to be time sensitive here. Give just a moment to see if anyone has a question.
Just one quick question, if possible. Students will ask as well. What's TAMU's goal for net zero? Are we moving it forward, moving it backwards? Are we still half at 2050? Do we have new goals for net zero?
For net zero, are you talking energy?
Overall carbon emissions, going for the university to go towards net zero. And I guess we could ask for the campus as opposed to the system.
Well, Kelly, I could take a stab at that.
Sure, Jim.
We do not have a specific goal to go to net zero. I've been in meetings and conferences and heard presentations of folks who have those targets and goals, and I have the utmost respect for them. Trying to achieve net zero in the middle of one of the hottest, most humid campuses with significant consumption and the intensity we have is almost impossible. There is no practical way to achieve that here unless you go buy a 5,000 acre forest and offset carbon with some other means or something innovative like that. There are people who do that and claim to be carbon neutral by offsetting it with other, greenhouse gas reduction in other ways. our focus here is to be, as efficient as we can, to be stewards of the environment as well as the financial goals, and continue working to reduce. It's challenging to say we have a specific goal. It's not going to, I cannot see it in the next 25 years being zero when you draw a circle around this campus. I'm just being honest. I mean, I'd love to be able to say it could be, but when you draw a small circle around a very energy intensive campus, it's very challenging. Now, we're going to keep, before I finish, let me say this. We're still looking at ways to increase renewable energy, increase and install energy storage, because if we can eliminate fossil fuel consumption and get more renewable energy, and that would require storing that energy, during the daytime when the sun's shining, and using it at night, things like that. I assure you, we're going to continue looking for that. The technology has to catch up a little bit, so it's hard to project exactly when that'll be available. But I want you to know we take it very seriously. We're working that actively. It's just hard to set exact dates and goals for when that would be achieved.
That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Carol is stepping away. Thank you, Carol. Thank you actually to all of our panelists. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us and sticking around. I see Dr. Venegas has a finger up. Carol, it's okay to step away. Yes, Dr. Venegas.
Hi, excellent presentation. I have a procedural question, because I've had experience at two campuses. Prior to Texas A&M, we worked with Georgia Institute of Technology, and we tried very hard to use the campus as a laboratory. And whenever you try to get students involved with all their creativity, crazy ideas, it actually is a tax on the offices that deal with the day-to-day problems of managing a campus, especially of this size. Is there a protocol? Because I can tell you that in college, we have a minor on sustainable design and construction. We have sustainability as one of our core foundational cornerstones. And there is an untapped amount of PhDs and master students that are constantly looking for projects. And one of my dreams, especially as I transition out of the dean's office into the full-time directorship of the Institute for Sustainable Communities, is to actually look at the campus as a community where everything from net zero to alternative energies to everything can be done in a way that does not interfere with our normal day-to-day activities. So is there such a protocol? Is there a wish list on what to do? Because I think that there is an opportunity that we have not really tapped, and that is the campus talent in itself, and not depend only on people like you that are, doing a fantastic job, but your resources are as limited as the ones that we have as deans in our college. So I don't know if the question makes any sense, but it would be a very good way to start addressing many of these things.
I think the answer is we don't have a protocol, but I do think that your idea and what you bring up is very important. And I'm going to just project just from what I've had interactions with some typically graduate students with different ideas, and appreciate you recognizing and acknowledging, Dr. Venegas, that the staff often have some bandwidth issues because they're trying to do their normal daily operations. But at the same time, we have this intellectual capital that's sitting there, and how do we couple that up and make things happen? I do think that that's an area, an opportunity that we can explore or should explore and look for ways to make that happen. And I'm kind of looking at Jim just because I feel like what ends up happening is I end up with graduate student contacts who have energy emphasis and design and engineering and things like that. And what I'm hearing you say, Dr. Venegas, is that, how do we connect those two things without overtaxing the staff? And so,
and also how to create a buffer to make that connection be a connection rather than a tax.
right.
To give you an example, I have a doctoral student right now that I'm chairing the committee, and her dissertation is on net zero communities, net zero buildings. And part of what she has been doing can be applied on this campus, but obviously you don't want to make something like that. But if I am able to create a program, and really my question is geared towards, if there is no such protocol for everybody listening, would it be? I know that I'm going to be doing a hullabaloo course in the fall, in addition to my creativity course, which I'm starting to teach again. And I am going to definitely shamelessly pursue my interests in sustainability in every possible way. So when you have a captive audience of students doing projects, I'm the buffer between the students. What I learned at Georgia Tech was very simple. You just don't say to the students, hey, we have an office of sustainability, and then have 150 students descend on your office saying, I would like to see the plans of this, I would like to do this, I would like to do that. No, so it's creating that buffer that actually can maximize. And you said it correctly, capitalizing on the intellectual property and the fantastic range of capacity that we have on campus.
Well, you piqued my interest a little bit. I was just going to say, I really love that you said, the campus as laboratory. That's kind of some experience I've had at other institutions that I would really like to see get going here more. I also thought it was interesting that you connected it to how you're going to shamelessly plug it in your Hullabaloo, because my experience specifically at Stony Brook was exactly that. What we did was we created communities. Yes, there were Hullabaloo seminars attached to them, but we had faculty integrally involved in these to sustain the project over time, right? Because you might have a grad student, but they're going to graduate, right? If you want to do something meaningfully with this and you really want to mobilize a lot of people, I think there's a lot to be said around creating a true learning community around it. So if you have a concept, you have a project, you have partners, where you can mitigate some of the staff load or the faculty load on that, is that you really think about the role of a graduate student. You think about the role of the undergraduate students that could potentially get involved in these types of things. And whether you want to call it undergraduate research with a little R, that's what we used to say at Stony Brook, or if you want to call it a campus's laboratory, I mean, to me, that's real learning community work. That's the real stuff. It's not about just grouping people together and having them take a class the same. That's a good structure. But the learning is exactly what you're talking about. And I think it's a really strong way to structure it. So I'll offer this up. I'm interested in discussing more if anybody else is on that
Let's take
topic.
that offline, because I really am. And the last thing I'm going to say is I shared with Kelly and also with Carol, Venturewell has grants for faculty and students that want to do something like this. So the reason why I'm also mentioning it is without, again, taxing the existing offices to do what the offices are made to do, there is a possibility to get a faculty involved with a team. I was one of the co-founders of Startup Aguiland, and I can tell you that it does work. When you're able to tap into the passion of students that want to retire when they're 28, hey, anything can happen. And right now, the time is right, because we're coming out of a pandemic and a lot of things have changed, and we cannot go back to the same normal. So I'm really passionate about this. So anybody that wants to talk to me, you know where to find me. And Kelly knows that I'm a very strong champion for this. But yeah, Jason, let's talk. And,
Yeah,
thank you for
absolutely.
a great presentation.
All right, folks. I love to see connections like that happen. And Jason, Jorge, if you start talking offline, I would love to also be part of that. Just to
You
see
have my
what
contact, right, Jason?
I will find it. Don't worry about it.
I'm easy to find.
All right.
All right.
Once again, thank you to Jim Riley, Jason Mastrogiovanni, and David Riddle, and also to Carol, who's already exited. We really appreciate all the work you're doing. Campus sustainability takes the work and efforts of everyone working together. I hope you noticed a lot of the interconnectedness and the relationships that folks have. We couldn't make progress as an institution without everyone collectively pulling their own weight, so to speak, and keeping sustainability at the forefront. So thanks. Have a great day, and hope to see you at our program tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Thanks, Kelly.
Bye.
Yeah, bye, everybody.
Kelly, bye-bye.
Azim, before you hang out, maybe we
Yes.
can have coffee. I just sent you a little note, because I think that we could talk. I have several possibilities of going after internal funding and external one. And I totally believe in student empowerment and engagement. So we can cause some serious disruption.
In a good way. That's
In a
wonderful.
positive way. That's
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
all about.
Yeah, let's
So-
do, Jorge. I'm sorry that we didn't talk sooner.
Oh, no, no
It's
problem. But you
just
know
a
how to
rush,
get a
but-
hold of me. If you can send me an email with all your contact, I'll have my assistant follow up. And we can, now that we are able to actually see each other at a good distance or anything, we can actually do some very interesting thinking, especially now that
Wonderful.
the summer is coming up.
That sounds wonderful. And by the way, I did try to start the students this semester on a small design learning task towards this end with totally no preparation, no background, totally clueless myself. But their efforts and their energy and their thinking really is constructive and hopeful. You know, if with
know.
some direction,
What-
there is
where-
just a
where are
lot
you
of,
in the
lot of
university?
power. Yeah.
Where are you in the university? What college?
Yeah, we've met through, I think, Don Jordan before and through San Miguel de Allende, that whole project. We were, I think, acquainted through that. I'm in the College of Agriculture in Recreation Park and Tourism.
Oh, perfect. You guys have a great connection with our landscape architecture program.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of your
Definitely,
students.
let's
That's great.
chat because I think the opportunities are very, very real.
Wonderful. We will do. I'll drop you an email as soon as I'm off here.
Okay,
I'm
Tazim,
really
is that how
happy
you
to
say
be
it?
here.
Tazim?
It's Tazim. Yeah, sí.
Tazim. Okay, well, I'm Jorge and we will chat.
Con mucho gusto. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Take
All
care.
right.
Thank
Ciao.
you. Bye-bye.